己看一下，给老子待地方待10几年，老子肚子打你怎么了？打死你，老子都心里有。
The wife went to work outside, and for 3 years, she didn't return home, and even filed for divorce with a lawsuit. Strangely though, she didn't want either of their 2 sons. To find out the truth, the husband immediately did a paternity test, which revealed the ugly truth about his wife.
老子恨不恨就是2巴子拍死你！老子不敢拍呀！老子不敢拍呀！老子现在杀你的心都有，别打你！
The man in front of you, looking distressed, is named Zhong Lei. 3 years ago, on a midnight, there was no conflict between him and his wife, but now she abandoned their 2 sleeping children without a word and didn't care about their safety. In these 3 years, even though his wife worked less than 2 kilometers from home, she never made time to visit the children. A week ago, Zhong Lei suddenly received a court summons, stating that his wife wanted a divorce and didn't want either of their children. To prevent his children from growing up without a mother, he went to find his wife and asked her for an explanation.
要离婚？
对。
小孩子都不要？
对。那你有没有想过为什么不要嘞？
为什么不要呢？
我为什么不要？你连这一点你都不知道，你还跟我来说这个东西。
Faced with his wife's response, Zhong Lei seemed somewhat confused. His wife, however, was straightforward. She said that when the children needed to go to school, her mother-in-law took out a loan to buy a house, but her name wasn't on the deed, and she had always resented this. Furthermore, 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. After sending the results to her husband, he didn't immediately rush to visit her. This made her feel very hurt. Even after that, her husband didn't show her the care she deserved. He didn't even show up when she had surgery. Zhong Lei explained that at the time, their relationship had already broken down because his wife could freely check his phone, but he didn't even know her phone's password. Even when he picked up her phone, she would snatch it away. Moreover, at that time, she was often out with other men, which made him suspicious of their son's paternity.
你们都觉得不是我在外面有人了吗？那就是有人了，把这个罪名做实就好了，讲那么多干什么？
When his wife said this, Zhong Lei felt guilty and immediately tried to ask for forgiveness. But his angry wife wouldn't listen to him, no matter how hard he tried to stop her.
算你受了委屈，给老公一杯嘛。
你不要跟着我了，你们一家人我搞不赢。
Seeing that his wife was determined to leave, Zhong Lei was filled with regret. Perhaps if he hadn't doubted the paternity of their son, this would still have been a happy family. But with his wife's cold indifference, the more he thought about it, the more something seemed off. With determination, he took the 2 kids to get a paternity test. When the results came out, he felt like the world was collapsing. His younger son wasn't his biological child. Could it be that his wife was rushing for a divorce to hide this truth?
来打死我来！你今天打不死我，你就是闹走，拿呀打死我呀！
我姐都罩不住啊！
没本事的男人就是这样子。
After throwing the paternity test results in her face, his wife not only showed no remorse but also claimed that the report was a fake that her husband had fabricated. They then got into a physical altercation. Zhong Lei pointed to the official seal on the report and said it was done at a large hospital in Changsha, which was legally valid in court. After a moment of silence, he thought his wife might admit her mistake, but instead, she made an outrageous statement.
你还在这里理直气壮，你以为拿出这个你就很有理了，是不是？
哦，意思是你有理。
你有多大的理？你在这里讲。
你有理。
Watching his wife act unreasonable, Zhong Lei trembled in place. He could never have imagined that the younger son he had always loved so much wasn't his biological child. Yet, when he accused his wife of cheating, she bit back and said that if he had divorced her honestly back then, none of this would have happened. Moreover, the child had his last name. Was it necessary to make such a fuss?
你还说老子搞事情是吧？如果老子在外面搞了别的女人，现在怀了一个孩子给你养，你是什么心情？老子养了6年。
Zhong Lei broke down and said that because his wife was taller and much younger than him, he had almost treated her like a princess in this relationship. But she didn't cherish it and had increasingly looked down on him. Then, in response to a reporter's question, she spoke contradictory words.
当时你跟其他的男人有染的时候，有
没有
上别人的孩子，
没有，
你没有跟别人男人有染，
对，
他觉得这个鉴定是有误。
我不否认这个鉴定有误。
Upon hearing this, Zhong Lei lost control of his emotions and tried to drag her out. Just then, the police arrived at the scene and stopped them. At the police station, The officers said that if the wife had been unfaithful, Zhang Lei could file for compensation in court. However, such violent behavior wouldn't solve the problem. Perhaps what Zhang Lei couldn't stand was his wife's refusal to admit her mistakes. After leaving the police station, Zhang Lei decided to talk to his father-in-law to understand his stance on his daughter's infidelity. To his surprise, his father-in-law just said that he didn't have the money to compensate Zhang Lei and that his daughter didn't either. He simply suggested Zhang Lei follow the legal procedure and sue his daughter. In Zhang Lei's eyes, it was because his father-in-law looked down on him that his wife took such extreme actions. After leaving, although he was reluctant, he made a decision to let his wife raise their younger son. When they met again, both were calmer, but his wife still didn't admit to the affair.
这不算说什么出轨，因为当时我跟他也就只是说喝过一次酒，也就只有一夜情。
Although Zhang Lei desperately wanted to know who the man was, his wife still refused to reveal it. Helpless, he had no choice but to sue his wife for compensation for the emotional and material damages he had suffered over the years. In the end, the court made a ruling. The custody of the younger son was granted to the wife, and the wife was ordered to pay Zhang Lei 200,000 yuan in compensation for the emotional and material losses he had suffered in the marriage.
This marital dispute, on the surface, appears to be a family crisis triggered by infidelity and a paternity test, but what truly caused this relationship to completely collapse was long-term avoidance and imbalance. Zhang Lei's endurance and constant compromise gradually stripped him of his dignity. Meanwhile, his wife's coldness, dominance, and refusal to admit the truth completely cut off any possibility of communication. When problems arose, no one was willing to face the truth. Instead, there was only mutual accusation, digging up the past, and shifting responsibility. Once an intimate relationship turns into confrontation, love is no longer love, but calculation and winning or losing. In this relationship, it seems that everyone is defending themselves, but in reality, no one truly won. The court's ruling could only resolve the legal issues, but it could not repair the collapse of trust. The compensation of 200,000 yuan could not buy back dignity, nor could it heal the wounds accumulated over many years. This case is more like a mirror, reflecting the cruelest truth of real-life marriages. When boundaries are repeatedly crossed, even the deepest feelings will eventually be worn away. The video ends here. If you have other thoughts, you're welcome to share them with everyone in the comment section. If you like this type of content, remember to like and subscribe for support. See you next time.